session, this webinar will be focusing on the projection map, an introduction, the basics, when to use, when not to use, what is it for, and common issues and problems, and an examination of its basic features. Our projection map is maybe one of the most fundamental map templates and one of the most often used map templates that we offer. And it's usually what people start creating when they start creating a map. As I said, projection map, what it is and how to make one. And today's agenda will be comprising mainly of going through the different blueprints that are on offer and how geometric and geographic data work, how the regions and the points system is working in the projection map, and we'll be briefly examining coloring and controls, which essentially are different ways to present different. Essentially, it's a set of menus and tools to being able to present different aspects of your data. And towards the end, we will be looking into a bit more advanced stuff like uploading your own GeoJSON file, which is the geographic, which is the file format that contains geographic information that you can upload to Flourish and make your own maps, and how to merge data. And all right, let's get started with, as I mentioned, the blueprints. Blueprints is essentially our term for ready-made map, ready-made maps that are already available at Flourish, and we offer them ready-made for you. And in order to be able to understand how they work a bit better, they already contain data, but you can add more data on them or even replace them altogether. Now we will be scrolling down, and as we can see in the projection map, we have quite different blueprints for Africa, Argentina, for the US, and they're not only different geographies or different areas or countries, but they're also on offer different ways to present the same geographic area, such as, for example, in the United States, we have a map of the different states of the Union. We have a hex mode, we have an electoral college map, we have a counties, a map of the different US counties, the same with the UK equivalent of local authorities and constituencies, same with Spain, and so on and so on. There's also the ability to add more templates. So if you think that there's something there you would be used quite often from you, you can always drop us a line and ask for us to talk through the option of adding one more blueprint that could cater to your needs. Continuing, since we are in the projection map, I think we should briefly talk about projections and what they are and why they matter, because it's usually something that's overlooked, but it's quite important, and it's very often the reason why a lot of maps, and especially custom-made maps, not blueprints, maps that are uploaded by the users themselves, are not working right off the box. In projections are essentially a way to present geographic information, a way to flatten the globe surface into a plane in order to create a map. For example, you would need a different projection for a map, for a nautical map, for a marine navigation map, than you would need for a map that you would use into a mountaineering excursion. And usually this creates an amount of distortion. So different projections are well suited for different areas of the globe. And for example, a projection that would cater to Spain, it makes sense that it would not cater for the US. And to give you an example, let's go to our projection map templates and let's look at the US county map, US counties map. As we can see in this specific projection, in especially the USA's case, we will be using Albers USA, which is a projection that caters to the USA because it manages to make Alaska a bit smaller, because usually it would take a huge amount of the screen, because Alaska is quite big geographically speaking, and also containing overseas territories, not the mainland 48. Then there are also quite a lot of other projections available in the projection map template. So if something is not working, make sure that the projection that you use is supported by the area that you wish to present, the region that you wish to present, essentially. And let's go a bit further, since we're talking about regions, and we mentioned regions already quite a lot of times. The projection map essentially works by presenting and being able to present two different kinds of geographical information. One is the regions, and the regions are essentially a set of boundaries enclosing a space. For example, a region could be a school district, a country, a national park. And essentially, they are a set of different coordinates. Let's go back to the US counties map. Here we can see that all these things, they are regions. And if we go to the dataset underpinning our visualization, we can see that there's a specific datasheet for regions. And by a set of coordinates, we mean exactly this. If you double click on the geometry column, we can see that this is essentially a bunch of different coordinates delineating a space. But this is not the only thing that the projection map can display. Also, maybe you are interested in presenting, I don't know, a city or some kind of way station. Any kind of geographic information that is not a set of boundaries, but a point in your map. As we can see here, we don't, oh, actually we do. Apologies for this. We have points for big metropolitan centers in the US. As we can see, here is New York, Philadelphia, and yada yada. And the way the points work are by defining a set of coordinates and binding them to the relevant data bounds. For example, there's points and a regions column, a regions sections on your dataset, that in regions you can and you should bound the geometry data of the regions and a column for their names, and exactly the same thing for the points, as we can see. Also, if you just want and you just need to display regions, you can just outright delete, so no more points. And since we have already taken a gander at the underlying data and underpinning the projection map, let's look into the other data besides the geographic data that we have already briefly spoken about. So, all right, you have found your blueprint of choice, or you have created your own, which we will be going through how to do this in a little bit. So now you have your map, but you don't have the data on the map that you wish to display. How do you solve this very fundamental? And obviously, this problem is the first one that you encounter when you want to make a projection map. You have your data. How do you affix them to the blueprint or to your geographic data, in case that your geographic data and the values that you wish to display are not already in a file, in a dataset at the same time? So let's see how to solve this. In this case, you can, if you have, for example, as I mentioned, data that are already, for example, I will allow me to explain a bit more. If you have data that are bounded together with your geographic data, if you have, for example, an Excel file containing geometric data, your geographical data, and at the same time, at the same row, the value that you wish to display, that's fine. You can just choose upload data and upload your data, and then choose the column bindings of your choice and then present your map. But that's not often the case. Usually your geographic data are in one place and your values are in another. For example, here we have a map of Europe. And we have a data set that contains the values that we wish to display, but we don't know how to merge them. And let's see how this works. I have already visited the European Commission website, and I found a data set on cheese production in Europe for each country per 1,000 tons. And I have it already saved locally. So the other option would be upload and merge. So if you wish to merge two different data sets, for example, one containing geographic data, the other containing your values, you choose upload and merge. Here, as we can see, our data set is cheese production. We choose it, we press import data, and now it's the crucial part. In order for these two data sets to be merged, we have to have a column that is common for both of them in order to be able to merge. In this case, we have ID in our dataset at Flourish, which contains country names. And in our dataset, we have the geo/time column, which also contains country names. And we choose merge, as we can see. And then we create, for example, we have values for a number of years. Let's choose for 2008, for example. Oh no, that's for names. Here's the value one. And here we can see that we have already managed to merge our data. Some of them do not contain data by themselves. It's not our fault. And we will be also looking at how to handle missing data in a little while. So this is how we can merge different data sets. Continuing, let's see how coloring works, since you have already your data on your visualization. The way this breaks down is again by two different branches, essentially. Your values can be either categorical or numeric. And how to color your map essentially depends on exactly this, if your values are categorical or numeric. And let's see why. For example, categorical data could be, they are data that are not connected by a numerical relation between them. They could be, for example, to put it simply, words. It could be election results or most popular soft drink for its country. Here in this example, created with Google Trends data, we can see what was the most prominent political issue in its US county by Google Trends data. And the way you visualize this is by essentially following best practices, and the colors do not have to be connected by some relation between them, as in this example, for example, by the One Foundation, that they made a map of which of Africa countries are open or partially closed or not due to the coronavirus pandemic. Moving on to our numeric data and what to do if we have this kind of values in our projection map. These are that data that are connected by some kind of numeric relationship. For example, they can be a vote share of a party in its country, or a variation in temperature above or below zero, or an increase in temperature above a median, as in this example. That is on a visualization of how much temperature has increased in different regions in different local administration of Lombardy since the median temperature of the 60s. And it makes sense that if you have this different kind of these values, you have to follow a different mode of coloring than categorical ones. And let's see how this works. For example, in our categorical scales, the way that we can set the colors is, for example, to head over to our maps. For example, oops, sorry for this. We can go here and go to one already existing maps and see different options for coloring. We can do it by heading over to the regions layer, and we have different options. In the categorical, we can edit the Flourish palette by adding more colors, for example. Here, or we can create custom overrides and set different colors for different countries. The way coloring works in numerical scales, there's also a number of options there as well, which is a bit different than categorical ones. There are a couple of more options there. as you can see, again, we have a cheese production in Europe map that, since they are numeric data, we have two different options between a sequential or a diverging color scale. Sequential means that a set of colors will be initialized based on a set of values, starting from one value and ending on another, for example, from 1 to 40. And divergent would be a set of colors created based on a set that, depending on how the values are diverging from it, for example, variation of temperature above or below 0, it would create and use a different palette. There's also, as I mentioned, different palettes available, for example, orange, green, red, and whatnot that you can also choose. And also there's an option for linear or binned that you can set this, how this scale is essentially breaking down and how often the colors will be changing, and based on how many branches of your values. And what happens, however, if we have a set of missing values, which is also a very common issue that you may encounter, a perennial issue, one might say, in any kind of map and in any kind of visualization, basically. As we can see in this map that we have already created of cheese production of different European countries, in a lot of times we just don't have data for different countries for different years. If you head over to the regions layer and into the missing values options, you can either use a pattern. As we can see here, we're using this kind of checkered pattern, and which you can also edit, or you can just outright hide regions, or you can make the region transparent, or you can even use a fill color of your choice in order to look kind of grayish, like in this example. And let's see at controls, which is also quite a useful feature of the projection map. Controls, by saying controls, as we can see here, we have cheese production in Europe, but we have used not only the 2008 column D, as we did before, but we have used all of our values up to 2019, which is also one of the most common selling points of the projection map, that you can visualize values for different years. But since you have values for different years and data for different years, you have to find a way to display them. As we can see here in controls, we set that our data are numbers, and we have different options of creating a slide, of using a slider in order to present the different values, different year values, or using a drop-down menu and choosing a year accordingly, or a group of buttons. As we can see here, they're looking a bit scrunched, but you can increase their width and avoid this issue. Moving on into something a bit more advanced. What happens when our blueprints aren't up for it and you might want to create a map of your own? You can upload your own geographic
I can't hear Elias anymore. He seems to have dropped out of the webinar. I don't know what happened there. Maybe issues with his internet. Very sorry about that, but I think I don't see him rejoining right now either. So I think we're going to have to stop right there. It is 3:30, however, so luckily that didn't happen earlier. Very sorry about that. We hope you found the session useful, and you will be able to follow the rest of the slides, which we will be uploading at flourish.studio/training. And feel free to get in touch with any questions at prioritysupport@flourish.studio. Thank you so much.